The Olympics? Every 2 years, the world stops for a 2-week festival of unity. We see the cheering crowds, the emotional victories, and the record-breaking athletes. We are told a powerful story, a story of global prestige, urban renewal, and economic growth. A story that hosting the games will boost a city's economy. It promises new jobs, a flood of tourists, and shiny new infrastructure. It's a chance for a city to introduce itself to the world, all funded by the magic of the games. But what if that's not just wrong? What if it's the most expensive lie in sports? What if the boost is actually a burden that lasts for decades? Why do so many host cities, the winners of the Olympic bid, end up going broke? This is the hidden story of the Olympic dream. It's not about gold medals. It's a story of empty stadiums, spiraling debt, and promises that turn to dust. To find the truth, we can't watch the opening ceremony. We have to follow the money. The modern games began in 1896. For decades, they were a much smaller affair. They were about sport, not a global spectacle. Cities hosted them on a tight budget. London's 1948 games were a perfect example. They were called the Austerity Games. The city was still rebuilding from World War II. There was no money for new stadiums. They used existing venues like Wembley Stadium. Athletes slept in military barracks. It was functional, it was cheap, and it didn't bankrupt the city. But then, something changed. Television. The 1960s and 70s turned the Olympics into a global broadcast. A global audience meant global money. Suddenly, hosting wasn't just about sport. It was about show. It was about building a city's brand. And that show required a very, very expensive stage. The first city to fall into this trap was Montreal in 1976. The mayor, Jean Drapeau, made a famous and foolish promise to his citizens. He said, "The Olympics can no more have a deficit than a man can have a baby." He was confident the new Olympic lottery would pay for everything. He was terribly wrong. The centerpiece was a new stadium, the Big O. It needed a futuristic, complex, retractable roof. It was an architectural dream and a financial nightmare. Costs exploded. The initial budget of $134 million ballooned to $1.5 billion. Labor strikes and rampant corruption delayed construction. On opening day, the stadium wasn't even finished. The tower and roof were missing. They were only completed a decade later, and the roof never worked properly. The final bill left Montreal with a crushing debt, a debt so large it took the city 30 years to pay it off. A special Olympic tax on tobacco was charged until 2006. The Big O became the Big O. Montreal was the warning. It proved that the Olympics could in fact bankrupt a city. No one, it seemed, wanted to host anymore. After the Montreal disaster, the 1984 Summer Games had only one city willing to bid. Just one. Los Angeles. Tehran, the only other bidder, dropped out. This gave LA incredible power. The city was in the driver's seat, not the IOC. The IOC, the International Olympic Committee, was desperate. LA's leaders, led by Peter Ueberroth, refused to use public money. They told the IOC they would host, but on their terms. The games had to be privately funded. This was a revolution. Ueberroth had a new plan. Don't build, use what you have. The LA Coliseum, built in 1923, became the main stadium, again. He aggressively pursued corporate sponsors, creating the idea of the official sponsor. He sold the TV rights for a record-breaking sum. The 1984 Los Angeles Olympics were a massive success. They didn't build new monuments. They used existing infrastructure, and they made a profit of $232 million. This created a new myth, the LA model. The idea that hosting the Olympics was a smart, profitable business venture. Cities lined up to bid for the next games. They all thought they could be the next LA. But they missed the point. LA was the exception, not the rule. It was the only profitable Olympics in modern history. Why? Because LA was the only bidder. It had all the leverage. The cities that came after were in a bidding war. And in a bidding war, the only winner is the seller. In this case, the seller was the IOC. This is where the real problem starts. The bidding process. Cities spend over $100 million just to apply to host. This money is spent on consultants and fancy presentations. They are all trying to impress the 100 or so members of the IOC. They have to promise the world bigger stadiums, more luxurious villages, better everything. This leads to something economists call the winner's curse. The winner is often the city that was willing to overpay the most. They win the bid by promising the impossible. And then they are legally bound to deliver on those impossible promises. The IOC doesn't pay. The IOC's contract says the host city is the ultimate financial backstop. The city or country must pay for all cost overruns. And there are always cost overruns. A 2016 study from Oxford University was shocking. It found that, on average, the Olympics overrun their budget by 156%. This isn't an accident. It's not a bug in the system. It is the system. No other mega project, not even dams or nuclear plants, has a worse record of cost overruns. The Olympics are in a class of their own for financial disaster. Now let's look at the fallout. The boost myth of LA 1984 quickly evaporated. Welcome to Athens 2004. The Games were coming home to Greece. The country was swept up in national pride. It spent an estimated $15 billion, staggering sum for a small economy. It built 22 brand new, state-of-the-art venues. They built a softball stadium, a canoe slalom course, a baseball field. These are sports that most Greeks do not play and do not watch. For 2 weeks, it was a beautiful party. The world watched. And then the party ended. Everyone left. The sponsors left. The media left. The athletes left. But the $15 billion bill stayed, and so did the venues. What do you do with a canoe slalom course when no one in your country canoes? Today, those venues are rotting. They are the modern ruins of Athens. The kayak course is dry and cracked. The beach volleyball stadium is overgrown with weeds. The stadium seats are faded and torn, baking in the Mediterranean sun. They are monuments to waste. A reminder of a 2-week party with a 30-year hangover. Just a few years later, in 2009, Greece's economy collapsed. The country entered a decade-long depression. Many economists point to the 2004 Olympics as a key trigger. The massive debt taken on for the Games helped push the national budget over the edge. The boost never came. Instead, the Games left behind a legacy of debt and decay. The pattern just kept repeating, getting more expensive each time. Beijing 2008. The official cost was $44 billion. The goal was to show China as a new superpower. It produced iconic images like the Bird's Nest Stadium. That stadium cost $460 million a day. It sits mostly empty. It struggles to find events. It costs $11 million a year just for upkeep. It has been called the most expensive bird's nest in the world. Then Sochi 2014. The Winter Games. Russia spent an astonishing $51 billion. It is the most expensive Olympics, summer or winter, in all of history. They had to build everything from scratch. They built a bobsled track and ski jumps in a subtropical seaside resort town. The logistics were insane. Much of this money was lost to corruption, flowing to a few powerful oligarchs. The boost was for them, not for the Russian people. And then, Rio 2016. The promise was to use the Games to help the poor and clean up the city. The final cost was over $13 billion, with another $2 billion in corruption. The city declared a state of financial emergency just weeks before the Games. Hospitals ran out of medicine. Police weren't paid. After the Games, the situation was worse. The famous Maracana Stadium was looted and abandoned. The Olympic Park is a ghost town. The Olympic Village, built to be luxury housing, sits almost entirely empty. The legacy of Rio was displacement, pollution, and debt. So this brings us to the central question. Why does this keep happening? Why do intelligent leaders in smart cities keep making the same costly mistake? The answer is simple. The system is broken. And it's broken by design. Let's look at the International Olympic Committee, the IOC. The IOC is a non-profit organization based in Switzerland. It has just a few hundred members, and it is one of the most powerful brands in the world. The IOC's revenue is massive. For the 2016-2020 cycle, it brought in $7.6 billion. Where does this money come from? Two main sources: broadcasting rights, the TV deals, and the Olympic program, top corporate sponsorships. This is the money from Coca-Cola, Visa, and Toyota. Now, where does that $7.6 billion go? The IOC claims it distributes 90%. This sounds good, but it's misleading. That money goes to the various international sports federations and national Olympic committees. It funds the Olympic movement. But here's the key. The IOC keeps 10% for its own operational costs. That's $760 million, and it pays for none of the actual infrastructure for the Games. The host city pays for everything: the stadiums, the roads, the athletes' village, the bus lines, the police, the security, everything. The IOC takes the profit. The city takes all the risk. The IOC's contract is a masterpiece of financial protection. The city must guarantee it will cover 100% of any cost overruns. It's the ultimate heads I win, tails you lose deal. The IOC gets a 2-week party. The city gets a 30-year mortgage. But what about that economic boost? The consultants promise a flood of tourism and new jobs. This is the other half of the lie. Let's look at jobs. The jobs created are mostly temporary. They are low-wage construction or service jobs that disappear the moment the closing ceremony ends. In Rio, 90,000 temporary jobs were created, but the city's overall unemployment increased in the year of the Olympics. The jobs were a statistical blip. Now, tourism. This is the biggest myth. Studies show the Olympics don't increase tourism, they displace it. Regular tourists, the ones who would have come anyway, stay away. They avoid the high prices, the crowds, and the security. They are replaced by Olympic tourists who come for the events, stay in designated hotels, and then leave. There is no long-term benefit. London 2012 is a perfect example. During the Games, visitors to the city's famous museums and theaters dropped by over 30%. The city was a ghost town except for the Olympic Park. The boost is an illusion. The real winners are a very small group of people. Land developers who buy up land before the bid, construction firms, often with political connections, who get no-bid contracts, and the consultants who get paid millions to write the economic impact reports that promise the boost in the first place. It's a closed loop. The people who profit from the Games are the same people who convince the cities to bid for them. The IOC knows it has a problem. Cities are dropping out. Boston, Hamburg, Rome. They all bid for the 2024 Games and then pulled out. Why? Because the citizens voted. They looked at the examples of Athens and Rio and they said, no, thank you, we don't want this. The 2024 bid came down to just 2 cities, Paris and Los Angeles. The IOC was so scared it did something unprecedented. It awarded the next 2 games at once. Paris got 2024, LA got 2028. This locked in their next decade of revenue. The IOC's fix is called Agenda 2020. It promises cheaper, more sustainable games. It encourages cities to use existing venues. This sounds familiar. It's the LA 1984 model, the model the IOC has ignored for 40 years. Paris and LA are both promising to use mostly existing stadiums. But look at Tokyo 2020, held in 2021. It was also supposed to be a cheaper games. The budget started at $7.4 billion. Ours, the final cost was over $28 billion. The one-year postponement alone cost $2.8 billion. It was a financial black hole, even with no spectators. So is the system fixable, or is the entire model doomed? When you strip away the flags and the anthems, you're left with 3 cold, hard truths. First, the economic boost is a myth. The Olympics are a cost, not an investment. The data is clear. For the host city, it's a massive net loss. Second, the system is designed to fail the city. The IOC takes 100% of the profit and 0% of the risk. The city takes 100% of the risk and 0% of the profit. The bidding war, the winner's curse, and the ironclad contract ensure that the city will always lose this financial game. Third, the real winners are not the people. The winners are a small, connected class of consultants, construction firms, and the unelected members of the IOC. The Olympics don't unite the world. They transfer massive amounts of public wealth from taxpayers into the pockets of a private elite. So what's the future? Some have suggested a permanent single location for the Games, a home in Greece perhaps. This would end the bidding wars. It would stop the endless, wasteful construction. The IOC has rejected this. Why? Because the current system is too profitable for them. The bidding war is a feature, not a bug. So the next time you hear a politician promise that the Olympics will boost their city, remember Montreal. Remember Athens. Remember Rio. Remember the empty stadiums and the 30-year debt. The Games are a beautiful spectacle, but for the cities that host them, it's a party they can't afford. The gold medals are real, but the economic promise is made of fool's gold. This story isn't just about sports. It's about how power works. If you want to understand the hidden financial wars that shape our world, subscribe. History has the answers.